everybody, and welcome to Send News, the Inside Gaming podcast where we talk all about video game news, and we have a lot of it today. My name is Brian Garr. I am your host.
What's up? It's me, the terrible one, Evan Campbell, and it is a super special honor and quite honestly a privilege to be introducing the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, the man with a plan, the podcast host with the mostest, hailing all the way from Chicago, Kahlief Adams. What's up, dude?
I think I just rubbed my nipple. No one saw it because it's like right beneath the cam right now shot. But oh my God, I'm so excited to rock with you all. Evan, you know I love you, your family. So this is even better that we get a chance to finally rock a show together in this way. So super hyped to be on with y'all. Thank you.
Do y'all go back or do y'all have history with each other? What's that about?
So here's the way I spin it, is because Evan is super modest about what he does. Okay. I would say that Evan single-handedly gave us some of the best ways to boost our show in the past couple of years than most people on the planet, because he basically was the genius behind getting our stuff in a reasonable way in a video format.
Nice.
So I have to say, like, Evan, you know I love you. You know I consider you to be fam. Spawn on Me would not be where it's at right now if you didn't help us with the work that you do and use your talents for what you were able to do with us over the past years. So thank you.
Clearly way too much praise. Yeah.
I mean, no, seriously though, like I think that you gave us the chance and the ability for me to, one, do what I do well, but also help me to think about what we can do in the future. And, you know, hopefully we get a chance to do this stuff together as well. But what we can actually do with the way that we want to cover shows and the way we want to cover this industry from that video perspective that we weren't able to do before. So I have to give you massive love and massive props.
This is crazy. This is like when you go back to one of your friends' like hometowns and then you meet their old, their old boys, and they're like, this guy was the best. One time he got so drunk, he fought a cop.
We haven't gotten drunk or fought any cops yet.
Not yet.
We could. I mean, PAX 2021. We might have to get a Patreon tier just for that. So be like, yo, go fight a cop and get drunk. Yeah. But seriously though, Evan is amazing at what he does. He's fantastic and like a perfect person to work with, doing this kind of work, and he's invaluable to what we were able to do for Spawn on Me in the past couple of years for sure.
I mean, awesome. I can't sit here and let you give me all this praise. We brought you on here to talk about you and what you've got going on. Obviously, it's been a crazy couple of weeks for you. You did that really amazing stream about 2 weeks ago, I think, about Blackness and Games.
Yep.
And it's just been a roller coaster ever since, right?
It's been very, very busy. I've been on probably 6 to 7 shows since Monday of last week. That bundled up with finishing a game that you might have heard about or should be playing soon, that's going to get a lot of praise, while also having a 9-to-5 job. It's been very, very busy. But I will say, folks who have come to the conversation that we did with A Lesson in Blackness, which was the name of the episode that we did, it's been so fantastic to see the love that we've gotten over the past couple of weeks based around that alone. Because it means that, one, people are really, gravitating and absorbing the work that we've been doing at Spawn on Me for 6 years now, in a real way. And it also means that the space is ready for real talk conversations around real things, which I think is also a really good thing for the space too. So, this past couple of weeks and days has been a roller coaster, but it's been the best roller coaster you could ask for. Like, it's always been positive and it's always been great from everybody kind of jumping to the fray.
It does feel, hopefully, that things might be different this time, or that I don't know, that the conversation does appear to be opening up, and it's so awful that it took something so tragic to start this, or to not start this, but to kind of reignite this conversation. But yeah, you do hope that we've, I don't know, hit some sort of critical mass at this point.
Yeah, I've never seen a piece of content like ours get passed around major media outlets the way it has.
That's great.
It is a thing that when you have conversations around racism or white supremacy or police brutality, that's the thing that most outlets are like, I'm not touching that thing with a 10-foot pole.
Right.
And I saw we got coverage in IGN, GameSpot, Kotaku, a whole bunch of places, like literally put their content down for a day.
Yeah.
On Tuesday of last week and shared our work, which is for us fantastic and also super validating in lots of different ways. So.
Yeah, I think, I think sometimes you were talking about, we're not going to touch this, because I think with the games industry and with games media as well, I think there's a tendency to shy away from that because it's like, we don't want to piss off people, or we don't. And Rooster Teeth's had that issue too. So it's like, but yeah, it does feel like there's a little bit more of a coming together at this time, and it's like, hey, we got to talk about this. We've got to get better, and we've all got to improve because there's a ton of room for it.
Yeah, for sure.
As long as we're talking about it right now, I'm going to slide in. I know we want to jump off and get into some of these news stories, Brian, but I just wanted to ask you, Kahlief, since you're here and we're kind of already on the topic, and I was going to save it for the end for the question section. But do you see the support like dying off already, or do you think this is like a lasting change?
I don't know yet. It still feels weirdly too early to tell. Like, there's been good momentum across not only just gaming outlets doing that work, but there's also been great momentum around the content creator spaces where people are collabing in ways that I hadn't seen before, and doing work with other teams that they haven't seen them do before with groups in our communities. That has been good. I do wonder, though, what's going to happen even next week. You know what I mean?
Right.
With the PS5 information dropping, as of today, as of the day that we're recording this, the conversation is definitely going to change a lot, especially. And then also you have major games coming out in the next couple of weeks too. So we will see, just how much people are putting their money where their mouths were in the past week and the weeks prior to that. It will be very, very cool to see if people continue that momentum and continue that energy towards having these really important conversations. But it also will definitely depend on how many more protests and riots and all that are going to be out in the street in the next weeks too. So lots of good stuff.
And there's just sort of the news cycle too. And, I come from a news background, and it's one of those things where you can write about something, and then finally an editor will go, I'm sick of reading about this. Bring me something else, and that's just, it's unfortunate, but there is, coronavirus even got kind of pushed to the, so it's a good point of like, what's it going to look like next week? Not even a month from now, a week from now.
And honestly, I'll keep it, 200 with both of you and everybody else in the audience. Like, I haven't had a chance to talk about games in the past 2 weeks either. Like, I would love to get back to doing some game coverage as a respite from having those conversations too. Like, I'm really excited. We're going to talk a little bit about some PS5 stuff in the news today, but I'm excited that we're going to talk about something else to kind of give myself a break from having those conversations. So it's going to be, the energy is going to be interesting. I want to see how brands are going to continue to lift that message up, and if we're going to see people kind of just duck and shy away from it again. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the stories of the week. And obviously, the PS5, we're recording this kind of Thursday afternoon. It's before the PS5 games reveal. So unfortunately, by the time you listen to this, you're probably already aware. You watched it anyway. But one interesting story that kind of bubbled up this week was talking about the PS5, both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. And Phil Spencer, of all people, gave an interview to the BBC about the Xbox Series X. Kind of felt like he's trying to manage expectations a little bit. Talked about, the terrible, terrible economy we're in, and kind of phrased it like, look, if it's not in your budget to buy an Xbox Series X this holiday, that's fine. We want you on Game Pass. We want you, in our ecosystem. It's, really doubling down on that point of, we don't care what you play our games on, but we want you, playing our stuff. We want you on Game Pass. So it makes sense. He's such a pro that I think he kind of managed to, tamp it down a little bit. But it does feel like, to me, it pointed to a little bit of worry, like, Jesus Christ, we have this brand new, generation coming out when like everyone's losing their job and out of work, and video games are going to be, it's a recreational activity, so it might hurt them.
Yeah.
I get to write the video game, some of the video descriptions for some of our content, and I think in one of them I put like, this is absolutely the worst year to release a console in the history of video games.
You're kind of right. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
So
You're not wrong by that. I mean, I think the thing I love about Phil is that Phil comes to these conversations with a really interesting layer of calm.
Yes.
Which I think is really important to the space, and you can't have a leader of a company or a leader of a gaming group like that panic in these kinds of moments, because that's bad for team morale.
Right.
That's bad as a signal up to the community and to consumers. But it is one of those things where, like, Evan, you're right. This is a terrible time to launch a console, knowing all those factors. But I think it's a very human answer that he gave.
Yes.
By acknowledging just where people actually are. I think that will give them way more grace and give them a lot more kudos when it comes to the time when people, one, either have money to make those purchases or when they are actually in the market to buy some of that stuff. And yeah, they've set themselves up in a really good way with Game Pass and with, xCloud being a thing in the future that's going to be in the space, so that when they do have some hard times with hardware, they will still have people in their ecosystem playing games that are going to be Xbox related. So they're smart in that respect.
And I think, and he mentioned this too, that smart delivery program to where you buy something for your Xbox One. Now, if and when you decide to buy the next gen console, all of them carry over. So, boy, this is just a perfect time that's just perfect for this kind of program. And I think you're right, talking about Phil being kind of a calming presence. They brought him in after that disaster of the launch of the Xbox One, where they completely screwed it up, and he righted the ship, man. He got everybody rallied and got morale back up. They obviously didn't win this generation, but I think he staved off disaster. Which is what I think it very well could have been.
Yeah. I think it's also better that they are out there kind of acknowledging these things. The thing that scares me about major companies is when they don't say anything.
Right.
And that's why I've been like a little bit worried. I think the PS5 is going to be fine. It's going to be a great console. Yeah. But I just in terms of marketing, it's been super worrying, because when you don't say anything, you allow the audience to control the message, right? Yep. And so at least now, by like acknowledging that, like, hey, it might be like a little bit shaky coming up, there's blood in the water maybe, and you can read it as weakness, but it's also a little bit at least getting their foot in there to control the message, like being like, hey, we kind of anticipated this and we've got a plan to hopefully in the long end we're going to do fine, right? Yeah,
you're kind of inoculating yourself against criticism almost. It's like you make a joke about yourself, you beat everybody else to the punch a little bit. And yeah, it's, but it's one of these industries. I remember talking to somebody from like the restaurant industry, and they're like extremely sensitive to recessions and bad economic times, because they say that is the first thing that families cut. When times are bad, they stop going out to eat. And we did. I remember growing up like as a kid. And so I think gaming is, the rest of the year, a lot of people just might be working on their backlog,
Yeah. A lot of those cross-gen platform titles that we see, people are probably going to default to the console they already have.
Yeah,
and it's also really interesting messaging that we see again, like from the old days of the Xbox with Don Matrix saying, basically tanking what that wind up being for that console for a while, and then Phil coming in and cleaning that up, and then also from a Sony standpoint of people talking about, well, so what if it's $600? Go work an extra job. Where you see these major companies now having seen the errors of those ways and having more human interactions and human messaging out in the world. So kudos to them for doing that work.
Yeah, it's I think Phil has been honestly great for the entire industry, because I think when Microsoft and Xbox are strong, just having a third big player in that space is always good, because I think probably most of us here remember the old days when it was just Nintendo, or Sega was just a small player, and Nintendo did whatever they wanted, and they were sort of a lot less friendly to third-party devs and things like that. So it's just competition in this industry, I think, is always a good thing. So
agreed.
It'll be cool to see. Speaking of next-gen consoles, the PS5, obviously we had the games reveal today, or we're going to, after, by the time you listen to this, you'll have experienced
We've already
it.
seen it at this point.
That's right.
We'll have content on the channel. We're live streaming the event, so
Yeah.
I think
we all
Patrick's
have
gonna be on
one.
that.
They all sent us one in
That's
real
right.
time.
Oh yeah,
We're big time like that.
and all the
But
games too. Yeah.
But there was a really interesting post in Reset Era about the PS5 and the solid state drive, because they've really been putting a lot of emphasis on that. And showing demos of SpiderMan, loading up in just a couple seconds. Tim Sweeney's really praised it, said it's more efficient than PCs. But then Thomas Mailer posted, and he's the founder of Moon Studios, which did Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Ori and the Blind Forest. He basically went on Reset Era and said, yeah, it's great. Like, it's cool. I'm not taking anything away from that. But third-party devs aren't going to basically make two different versions. Like, if it's got loading elevators on the Xbox Series X, it's going to have loading elevators on the PS5. So he was basically saying the first-party companies are the ones who are going to fully take advantage of that. The rest of us are just going to make the same game for everybody.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah, I know.
That's kind of the way it's always been, though. I mean, in some ways, it's like in other news, water is wet, but also, I think what he's saying is interesting too, because it doesn't mean that those load times are going to be long, right? So, like, I wonder how that works. When you jump into that elevator on PS5, that elevator is going to be way quicker, or are they going to have to like artificially?
It's going to be like you went to the first floor instead of the penthouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I would love if Sony would put like a weird disclaimer in every game that pops up that's not using the PS5 SSD. That's like, this could have been better if the developers had utilized the
scolding them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that comes off instantly from this conversation that I think is a thing that Sony's going to have to figure out how to message is they already had a problem in the PS3 era around architecture, right? Where it was harder for some devs to code for that architecture, making it, the less sexy platform to have.
The cell processor.
Yeah, the cell processor. Yeah. And it was one of those things where they weren't lead skew for a long period of time during that era.
Right.
And the conversation that they also have to now manage is Sony has had a really good, so far, conversation with the community about like, this is going to be a really good thing for you and for developers, because they won't have to do a lot of this extra work to get the thing to run really well on our system. And now you have this conversation from Mahler that kind of refutes that in a weird way. So they're going to have to figure out ways to get the messaging on track for that, for sure, because if that is a thing that in developer circles is going around as, beginning gospel, that's a bad deal for Sony in lots of ways. So they're going to have to figure out how to get that under control and wrangle that message in a real way super fast. Because it's funny you mentioned the PS3, because I kind of got flashbacks to that too, in the sense of they overhyped the PS3 in the rollout, and sort of just acted like, it's got this new sort of magical processor that's going to be doing all this stuff. And I don't think the PS3 was a bad console at all. It had some great games, but there was a little bit of, over promising, I think. And I got some flashbacks there with the PS5, because if it loads, it can load a first-party game in 2 seconds under optimal conditions. But this guy seemed to be giving you, here's how the real world works, and here's what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, that's super fair. And I think, are you referencing like the Killzone trailer from way back when? It was like completely epic, and then PS3 kind of underdelivered.
Yep.
I think, I think it's a really interesting case. I was thinking about this morning. Do you think that there's incentive for them to like pay developers a little extra to go in and retool their games to make it like just slightly better on PS5 or something?
Maybe.
Oh yeah. I mean, like Unreal will do some of that work too. Like they help it with enablement with, the Unreal Engine and making sure that people have dev days where you can come in and figure out how to optimize your stuff. And it only behooves Sony and PlayStation to do some of that work up front.
Yeah.
And especially with third-party devs that already have dev kits. Like, why wouldn't you already be doing that work to make sure that they're going to be able to get all the good juice out of the content or out of the system, out of the box? Because that just makes you feel like you're already kind of putting them in a weird position to not do that work.
Right.
So, I would hope so. Like, if they have dev kits, like, how do you not do that? That makes no sense. I would love to hear that from the Sony side of the fence, though. Like, what are you actually doing to help, enable that stuff for developers who are not first party?
Yeah,
because it's going to be most of the games we wind up playing. So
yeah, is it something? Is there some secret sauce in there that just sort of kicks in automatically, like Cerny's kind of alluded to? That you don't really have to do much, which would be great. And that's it seems like Sony is focusing more on optimizing games to sort of run very efficiently and load very efficiently, and sort of cut out some of the it's sort of almost quality of life improvements, while Microsoft still going to have an SSD. I think it's still going to load plenty fast, but they're going harder, I think, on more 4K, more frame rates, sort of maybe pushing the graphical end of it a little bit more than the PS5 does.
What's actually really interesting too is that both of the systems have weird memory messaging issues that they have to work through. So you have the weird extra memory dongle thing that is going to be on the Xbox Series X.
Oh yeah.
And then you also have now this conversation around the PS5 and their SSD. It's going to be really interesting to see how both companies work themselves around that, because we saw what happened with Xbox back in the day when you had the detachable hard drives, and that was a whole issue. And now you see this conversation around the SSDs on the PS5. So lots of PR folks getting paid real well right now to figure out what that's going to wind up being in terms of the conversation. So but Godspeed to all of you doing that work.
Right, right, exactly. I mean, I also think at the end of the day, if we're arguing about a load time of, 8 seconds on the Xbox Series X versus 5 seconds on the PS5, it's not going to mean that much. Now, if they're both fast, I don't know if it's going to ultimately matter, but it's the build up to a new console cycle, and it's fun to argue about these things.
And that stuff will get faster over time too. It'll get optimized either way.
That's right. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the things too. I was thinking back to what we were saying earlier. The end of a console usually has some of their best games because everybody's kind of figured out how to develop for it. So I'm kind of excited for games like The Last of Us and Cyberpunk, because hopefully they're gonna figure out how to kind of wring every last bit of juice out of the machines.
Yeah, and I think about CD Projekt Red is a real interesting case too, because for forever, and it's obviously a different company, but Crysis was the benchmark for PCs.
Right,
but then
can it run Crysis? Yeah,
can it run Crysis? And now CD Projekt Red has kind of taken that mantle. So it'd be interesting to see if they have different approaches to the different consoles. They obviously spend a lot of time optimizing for PC, so I mean, maybe that's more favorable for the Xbox side. But I love this stuff that. I mean, that's the reason to own consoles, in my opinion, is for the first party exclusives, because they are able to eke out all the performance. And that's what part of what makes them great, as well as all the other narrative and story and stuff, production that they just throw into those games, music and sound and all that too. It's interesting. Either way you cut it, I don't feel like any of the players are really losing out too much here. It seems like the differences, and I guess we'll see after today and in the coming months, but the differences don't seem too drastic as of yet.
That's what I think. I think, and I think you're right about the first party, and I think the PlayStation has developed that reputation for being not like a Nintendo first party machine, but I think one of the crown jewels of a PlayStation are its first party exclusives. That's just, I think that's a huge reason why you get a PlayStation. And I think they're definitely going to continue that moving forward.
Yeah, being older, seeing the sea change in the response to just how many PlayStation fans there are now has been kind of wild for me, because before everything was Xbox 360. It was impossible to take two steps on the internet without seeing Xbox 360 fanboys out there just really tune out. It used to be way worse.
It had Xbox Live, and it was where sort of the hardcore console gamers played. Yeah, and
now it feels so much like you can't even look at the PS4 or PS5 weirdly without people coming out in droves in support of it.
The Sony ponies.
Yeah.
as we call them.
I'm here for it. I have my feet on both sides. As always, I'm not losing anything.
Right. Right.
So it'll be fun to see just what new games look like. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I mean, it's always a fun time. Buying a new console to me still makes me feel like a kid again, and setting it up and everything. It's so much fun.
It's so good.
Let's move on to the other big console maker, Nintendo. They have been having major problems with the Switch hack. At least in terms of accounts that have been hacked. You might remember, I think this was back in April, they said about 160,000 accounts had been compromised. Turns out almost twice as bad, closer to 300,000, they said this week. It applies to, it's a little bit specific, but if you connected your old Nintendo Network ID from your 3DS or your Wii U to the Switch, you might be one of those who are vulnerable. But yeah, it let people, play your games. They could buy stuff. There's reports of people buying a bunch of V-Bucks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I don't think they could see your credit card number, but they could use it on Nintendo. They saw a lot of your personal information. So it's a big problem, more than they let on to. It's not as bad as like the PSN hack back in 2011, but it's pretty serious for Nintendo.
Wow. The part of it's like is Nintendo playing the part of the ESA right now? Just like let everybody just hack all your crap. Like the weirdest part about this, and this is not to belittle what Nintendo has been able to do with the Switch, but one of the things that always raised my eyebrows in terms of why I am not as excited to be on Nintendo hardware is just how antiquated they have been with the way that they connect and link up their systems to work together. There are so many ways to log into all the things you need to do on your Switch to have the full experience. Oh, I need to go get this app on my phone to go talk to people or do stuff in Animal Crossing. Oh, I need to have a Nintendo account here that connects to this other thing. It's just like so many, like my IT brain as an IT professional for over the past 10 years is just like, yo, what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you do? You leave so many holes in your system for people to possibly jump through to get to a simple sign in to get things done. It's like, it's so unreasonable. So I'm not surprised by this being, worse than what it was or even that it happened in the first place. So
the argument for that too is always that like, oh, Nintendo's really conservative in terms of their security for their breaches and stuff. And that's why like they're just like so far behind. But like, yeah, I think what you're saying is like, no, they're so far behind, and also they're bad at security because of that, right?
I mean, it would not surprise me a bit to hear they were bad at security. Yes.
I mean, they're bad at the internet.
Right.
Like, think about that. Like, from a base conception, like, they're bad at the internet. Like, tell me how many good Nintendo online experiences you've had in the past 10 years.
If it was up to them, we would still be playing on unplugged consoles with nobody else but ourselves and whoever else is in the immediate room with us.
Yep.
I'd kind of be okay with that, I guess.
It is kind of charming, yes.
Oh my God, that's just so unreasonable.
I will say though, as somebody, when I have a kid playing like the Switch or something, I am less worried though, because Nintendo locks it down so much and makes online so difficult. I'm like, you're probably fine. There's probably no adult trying to get you to send them selfies or something.
Yeah, for sure. Wow.
Let's see. Let's talk, moving on, Cyberpunk 2077. We mentioned that a little bit before. CD Projekt Red mentioned in a press release, it's not coming day and date to Stadia. I think it's September 13th when it's coming out. 17th, excuse me, for PC, Xbox One, and PS4. I think the assumption was that it would also come out on Stadia that day. And, the whole thing of Stadia is there's no downloading and you don't have to, you can just kind of start it up. And, we've seen Doom Eternal. We've seen a few new ones come out, but this seems like that's more bad news that Stadia didn't need, because this is highly anticipated. I'm sure Stadia people were stoked to play it. Both of them.
Is it the death knell, right? Like, is that the burying the lead here? I think how many more knocks against Stadia can it take before it just like completely has no audience? I think that's oh no, like Cyberpunk doesn't come to Stadia. I don't think a lot of people are going to care, but I think like maybe people at Stadia probably care because they need every like ounce of like good faith and goodwill.
And is it a sign that developers aren't making it a priority? Because the player base isn't there.
Yeah. I'm as a person who wants to love Stadia and wants to give it a chance, it's in that container or it's in that closet right now because I'm not playing it. And that's sad because I still think that there's a space for it in the ecosystem where it is the traveler's game of choice, system of choice in that way.
Totally, yeah.
And I think it still has a really good spot in where it could land, but the inconsistencies have just continuously been there. Just like everything that we thought we were going to get, we're not getting now, or anything that technology wise it's getting. And the weird thing is, like, what sucks is that they have made improvements to the way that it works, but because no one's touching it in the ways that they expect, you can't even evangelize it in a good way. You can't even share that good news because people are like, well, so what? I'm not gonna jump on that thing when I have a beefy PC or my console just does what it needs to do. But I'm actually kind of sad that Cyberpunk isn't going to be making it at day and date, because I was hoping that there would be some cross save stuff in that space somewhere, so I would be able to play somewhere else and then continue that game progress, because it's going to be a big and long and beefy game, to be able to play that stuff wherever I was in another room or something else, or didn't have access to the TV. So I'm sad about that stuff. I'm hoping that they can get that stuff together soon and figure it all out. But man, Stadia, I got to figure it out.
I tried Stadia. They offered Pro like 2 months for free or something. This was a couple months back, and I tried it just to see what it was about. And it's one of those things, like, the technology is cool. Like, I was like playing Destiny on a 7-year-old MacBook Air, and like. But yes, there was a little bit of lag. I couldn't see like playing some sort of competitive FPS on it. But then I played like a SteamWorld game, and it was fine for that, like SteamWorld Quest, and it was totally fine for that. And even like they're putting Elder Scrolls Online onto the Stadia, I think next week. Like, that's cool. I think MMOs actually could maybe have a life on it. But even. I thought the technology was cool. I thought there's something there. I still couldn't see that being my day in, day out gaming platform. I just didn't see it, especially with like Project X Cloud kind of coming up. It just feels like there's better alternatives.
Would Stadia be doing any better without the pandemic? Like, I don't know if we've talked about this directly, but maybe the use case and the audience, like kind of Kahlief was saying, to play Cyberpunk wherever, right? Like, and if in a normal year, Kahlief, you'd be traveling a lot, right, to different gaming events and shows and things like that. Yep. And I think a lot of that audience is in that vein, right? Or for the release too, like maybe even that audience doesn't care if they don't get it day and date because they probably don't have enough time to get to it anyway. Right? Like, is that the Stadia demographic of like the busy business guy who just wants to play games, between commutes and flights and stuff like that? I don't know.
Well, here's the part that actually is the worst news for Stadia folks, is that yes, I think that is probably the major kind of demo that they would be able to snatch up early as early adopters for Stadia stuff. The second part that's actually kind of sucks for them is right now, when you've had, like, the biggest issue was around data. Was like, oh my God, how much data are you going to suck up from my ISP?
Right.
And with so many companies now kind of lifting their data caps and people still not using Stadia as an option for gaming in the same ways, that's rough. Because right now they should be thriving in that respect of being able to do that.
Yeah. I have never been able to. Our first story about Stadia, I think, when they unveiled it, we kind of asked that question, who is this for? Yep. Because I think Strauss Zelnick, the Take-Two CEO, said this too. The idea that you want to get into games and you're willing to, but you don't want to spend hardware, but you would spend $60 for a new game. I just don't know if that person really exists, because if you're going to buy games for $60, you're probably going to put money down on hardware too.
The drill. Yeah,
right. What you're getting into. Video games have been around for decades and decades now. You know what this is all about. And to me, it seemed like maybe Stadia could fill a niche of people who wanted to kind of game on the PC, but didn't want to buy a big expensive rig, but still wanted, to play, a lot of PC games and like PC quality games. I think the people left right now who are playing it are sort of early adopter, like enthusiast types who are just kind of interested in the tech. It's you'd mentioned word of mouth before. I think you're not giving those people a reason to tell their friends, and they really need that right now. Google does.
Yep, for sure.
And Google's Google is more than happy to pull the plug on a project that isn't working. I mean, they've done it with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they have a whole studio in Playa right now too. That's like, I keep thinking about that. Like, is it? I don't know if that's Jade Raymond or Amy Hennig's deal. They have one of them, right? Like working on Stadia stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, they put a lot of money into it. Yeah. Jade Raymond, I know, works for them. Yeah, or heads up a studio.
Yeah. We shall see. That's going to be a really interesting thing to see how they kind of end out the year.
Yeah,
and see where they wind up landing, because that's where we're going to figure out like if it's going to stick around or not. Probably at the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, at some point, a bunch of people in suits from Google are going to have a meeting and be like, "All right, what do we have to show for this, and what's the potential for growth here?" Because these are internet people; they're used to big growth. You know, it's like up, 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 and up, and but I don't know. This kind of goes the other way. So we beat up on Stadia a lot. I think the idea is cool, and I hope for people who play Stadia that it works, and I'm in favor of more competitors in the space. I think it's good. Even when I played it a couple weeks ago, it still felt very beta to me and not like a finished product yet.
I'll probably like unbox it and go mess around with it sometime today and see if or at least over the weekend to see like where it's actually at right now.
Yeah.
But they need a win real bad.
Yeah, they need a win. That's right.
They need a win.
That's right.
They need a win real bad.
Even VR got a big win with Half-Life Alyx. I mean, you know, they got a big kill. Stadia has nothing like that on the horizon.
Nope.
All right, let's get to the questions. But first, we have sponsors. I'm excited. We love people who sponsor our show. First, let's talk about ExpressVPN. Now, everybody, you're stuck at home these days. We know. You probably don't think too much about internet privacy on your home network, but you really should. Just incognito mode on your browser, that doesn't mean you're incognito. Your online activity can still be traced. We can see what kind of porn you're searching for. Even when you clear your browser history, your ISP can still see every website you visited, even the embarrassing ones. That's why even when I'm at home, I don't go online without using ExpressVPN. Now, you know what a VPN is. Probably most of you, we're all smart people here. But what it does, if you don't know, it routes your internet connection through their secure servers. It has an IP address, ExpressVPN does, that's shared among thousands of users. What does that mean? It means everything you do is anonymized, can't be traced back to you. We are anonymous. You know, it's like everybody's got the little Guy Fawkes mask on. It also encrypts 100% of your data, best-in-class encryption, so your information is always protected. It's got you covered on every device, your computer, your tablet, your smartphone. Yeah, you're not safe on the smartphone either. So protect your online activity today with the VPN that I trust to secure my privacy. Visit my special link, guys, at expressvpn.com/sendnews. You can get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That's expressvpn.com/sendnews, SENDNEWS, expressvpn.com/sendnews to learn more. And thank you to ExpressVPN. Y'all have really kept us going through some lean times. We appreciate y'all. And then one more, let's talk about your skin, because guess what, guys? Your skin has needs too. If you want it to look as good as possible for as long as possible, you got to address those needs now. I know you might just be sitting around at home on the computer all day, but your skin needs some love too. There is a company that has taken all of the guesswork out of you, Lumen. Lumen is on a mission to help give men the amazing skin they deserve through high-quality, expert-created products delivered right to your door, formulated specifically for men's skin, made to target skin issues with maximum efficacy using top-notch ingredients like charcoal, green tea extract, vitamin C. Yeah, you just thought they sold that stuff at Whole Foods. No, they sell it at Lumen Skin too. It's not about just looking good. It's about feeling good. You want your skin to look good. That's the first thing everybody sees about you. We actually got Lumen Skin. I've been using the moisturizer. It's something I'd always forgotten about. I would just soak myself up in the shower, but then I would notice, oh, why is my face all peeling away? But you got to moisturize after. Lumen Skin has great moisturizer. Choose from different skin concerns to address. I got dry skin myself. I've always had it. Or you can pick up a simple starter pack for free. You deserve to look and feel your best. Here's where you start, guys. Go to Lumin Skin, LuminSkin.com/sendnews, Send News, SendNews, to get a 1-month free trial of everything you need to start your skincare journey at home. That's the best journey you're ever going to start. That's LuminSkin.com/sendnews to get your first month for free. LuminSkin.com/sendnews. So thank you to both of our great sponsors.
I feel like you guys should send a sponsor code over to Nintendo for ExpressVPN.
Hell yeah. That's right. They wouldn't be in this mess. I feel like a real radio guy reading these.
No, that's great. I love hearing live reads. Fun. Those are always fun for me.
It's very fun. All right, let's go to questions. We get these from our beautiful fans on Twitter. First one from Joe Cerna. What old systems do you still fire up? What games do you play on it? That is a very good question. You guys go first.
Ooh.
Yeah, sure. I'm always surprised that my Super Nintendo works. Like, I always take it out.
Those are tanks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm pretty sure that at some point when I was younger, my family moved and it was like in a box, like stored outside under like an awning for a couple of years.
Probably got rained on. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. I definitely. It was a leaky awning for sure. Definitely some big puddles of water under there. And yeah, like I pulled it out one year and just like, oh, does this still work? And I plugged it in and totally, yeah, it's all yellowed or whatever, but it's totally fine. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Incredible. Yeah. That's probably one of the best consoles of all time just because of my age bias. But yeah, I'm always surprised to see that thing.
It always surprises me. The Super Nintendo didn't do that great in terms of sales. I forget. Let me look up. But it's such a legendary console right now. 61.9. No, wait, hold on. That was the NES. Man, maybe it didn't do that well. Worldwide, just 49 million. That was it.
That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah, it's so influential though, because I feel like it really just took the NES really to the next level. Because I love the NES, but it had a lot of just kind of arcadey and just there were some. It was great for its time, but I think the Super Nintendo stuff has aged really well.
Oh yeah,
I think those two jumps of generations spoiled us too, from going 8-bit to 16-bit and then
then to 64
and then into 64. Yeah. That jump to the PlayStation era was just mind blowing at the time.
Oh, yeah. Hard to explain if you didn't live through it. Yeah.
I mean, I used to go to my local game shop and I would just sit in there for like 2 hours and watch the Mario demo. Just being amazed. Yeah.
It's so good.
There's a story too, I think about when they showed off Mario 64 for the first time. I don't know if it was E3 or something. And people's mind, like people just didn't know how to react. It was like, what the hell is this? It's amazing.
Yeah. People freaked out when all that stuff came out and the blast processor on the Genesis and all those other things came out. Yeah. I mean, I think when I go back to my PS3 at this point. Like that's as far back as I go. I mean, well, that's not true. I literally just bought a set of MAME ROMs the other day because I need to play some old school games that I haven't played in a very long time. But yeah, I was like, there's one game that I've been dying to get back on, and it's called 4 a.m., which is this music game that played on PS3. So basically, it was one that you use your Move controllers with. And each quadrant of your screen played a different instrument. And with the spatial awareness of your Move controllers, you could add reverb and echo.
Oh, wow.
And also the cool stuff with the game that you would play. And it was one of the best games that was ever made, but it got no love because it was too weird for people. So I play a lot of that stuff. And then I don't really dig into my old systems as much as I used to because I kind of either don't have the hardware anymore or I've emulated some of that stuff off so it's not on hardware. But yeah, I miss some of I don't miss the controllers from the old systems.
Yeah.
Except for like my GameCube, which was always great. So yeah.
Yeah, it also takes you got to dig it out from under your bed or whatever and like get it set up. Like, there's usually like a sort of an installation process too. When you want to bust out the PS2 so you can play Guitar Hero or something.
Like who has component cables anymore?
Yeah. If you don't have a CRT, I guess. So that's my feeling. It's like, I don't even have a CRT. What am I doing?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't have component cables. Like, what am I doing with that stuff?
My, let's see, it's not quite dead yet, but I guess the 3DS I still play quite a bit because It's got a good library and it plays DS games. So there's just so much you can play. And yeah, it's a portable. So you just have to make sure it's got, it's got juice in it and it can go. Also the PS Vita, I still have mine. I'm about to start up the Trails of Cold Steel series on that because I think only 1 and 2 it's on that in the PS4, but I just love portables, and the Vita is still such a good portable.
Be still my beating heart, man. I love my Vita so much. That OLED screen and just I
have to see if it still works. I
mean, it was the Stadia of its day, right? Like,
kind of, yeah.
People just dumped on that thing, but it was really cool. And but you got a lot of indie games on there and stuff.
It was just a little too expensive. I feel like if they had cut that price a little bit more, that's one of those things where I forget what it retailed for, but like I feel like a $50 cut would have maybe helped it a little bit more. All right, let's move on. I had something kind of related. Oh, Paris asks, what can Google do to save Stadia? Speaking of Stadia, great question. If I knew the answer, I would go get a job at Google and make a lot of money.
First of all, Paris never asks good questions. He asks terrible questions all the time. He makes terrible food. Screw that person.
I see Paris. There's a rivalry going on here involving your burnt oven ribs.
Screw you, Paris. Screw you, your ribs and all your stupid questions, whatever. I mean, what do you do to save Stadia? You need more games. You need better messaging. You need more people to understand the ecosystem.
Yeah,
and you have to come through on the promises that you said you were going to do, and then you'll be in a better position. That's.
I think some of it too is like maybe too little, too late. What can they do now, right? Like if they waited till they had games that use the architecture that they're like base all their technology on. Like games that are exclusive to Stadia, I think that would have moved more units for sure. Yeah. And maybe that stuff is just so far out that they can't wait that long.
Well, I don't know. I think a big exclusive like a Half-Life Alyx. I mean, I know that's a tall order that requires years and years of work, but I think it would help if there was something that you could only play on Stadia. I think that would get people to take a second look at it or first look.
And they're Google. They have so much money.
Right,
They could go and swoop out some really incredible developers for probably not that much money to them. Yeah, they could just go old school and buy up studios that could make them those exclusives. And I'm just surprised like nobody thought of that before they launched their brand new platform that's supposed to change gaming forever.
Here's the thing now, though, right? And you're absolutely right about that take, Evan. I think that who's gonna hitch their wagon to Stadia now.
Yeah.
Now it's too late, right?
Now it's too late. Like I would, as a studio, why would I do that?
Unless they're paying me a bunch of money just for the like Sony does with like, their first party studios.
Yeah, for sure.
If they throw that Google money at you.
Yeah.
They need to bring Mother 3 to the West. All of their they need to buy the rights to it. People would lose their shit. That's it. That's how you say it. Okay, let's move on. I got to get back to my questions. Zion Tart asks, what are some games that help you chill out? Animal Crossing is it's such a perfect chill out game. You don't have to pay that much attention. You can just kind of go around and do repetitive tasks. You can pick weeds. You can terraform. You can watch a show at the same time. So that's my vote.
I'm weird. I play really stressful games to chill out.
Right.
Like I used to play Paragon. That used to be my game that used to make me feel better. I play fighting games to make me feel like better and chilled out. It was something I played that was really, really stressful. I play a lot of Dead Cells when I'm like, I have like my before I go to bed games.
Yes.
And those are a couple of those where it's like, I'm going to go to bed. I need something to like not think too hard, but I'm good at, and able to like do cool stuff. So like those games for sure.
I keep meaning to go back and play Dead Cells because I started it, but I never, it's like learning Spanish. It's always one of those things that's like on my to-do list, but I've never, did you beat it? Did you go all the way through?
Finally. Yeah. Like some months back, I finally beat the last boss. Nice. I don't know what happened. I think somebody threw some holy water on me right at the end of that battle, like in real life. I was like, I made it through. Thank God. I've been trying to beat this thing forever and I couldn't do it. So it was really satisfying too. I was like, oh my God, I finally beat this thing that I've been kicking my butt for a long time. So
Especially with roguelikes, because you got to start all over again. I mean, it's it's like the old school. It's like old Nintendo games. Like you just saving, just start all over again.
Yep. I got pretty close a couple of times to finishing Dead Cells, but then it's just like I started reading about like the end game stuff, and it's like, oh no, like the game is actually about like making these runs through the end of the game multiple times, and I was like, I haven't done this once. I'm
gonna tap out.
I need to put this down because it's gonna. Yeah, I have a weird relationship like that sometimes with games. Like for example, I think one of the go-to relax games I was gonna say is like Into the Breach. Yeah. And even like last night I was playing, I was like, yeah, this game chills me out. This is pretty relaxing. But then you get to the next island or the third island, and you're just like, oh my god, I'm so stressed out. I don't know what to do to save my mech. That happened to me
too. Yeah, it's great on Switch, but yeah, it's so tactical. You have to make like the correct choices or you will get wiped out.
Yeah, it's best to like play that game a little bit and put it down and then walk away. But it's so hard for my brain to like put things down like that. But you usually come back with a better solution than what you would have, like, because you just start getting impatient, right?
My best suggestion though is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is one of the best chill out games you can play.
Yep. Yeah,
that's pretty good. Yeah.
No
Man's Sky is great. A Short Hike is really great. A small indie game. It's just like you're walking around an island collecting feathers that help you like fly a little bit longer. And it's almost like Journey-like in that way, but not with the. It's like a completely different presentation, but very chill.
I used to love. I don't play them anymore, but MMOs were great for that too. And I would like you could just grind and then watch a TV show or something on your other screen and just. It was great. I love doing that. And it's unless you were on like a major raid or something where you had to really, pay attention and be dialed in. Most MMOs kind of boring, kind of grindy. You're just, walking around and leveling up your character or, just kind of min-maxing and stuff. So those were always I went through a 2-3 year phase where I was, heavy into WoW and other stuff like that. So that's a good choice. Let's see. Ben Ingham asked, what games are Sony going to announce but we're not actually going to see for a good 5 to 6 years? Well, see, by the time we answer this question, they'll have already made the presentation. So
that's a great sealed envelope opportunity here, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
we can predict and we'll look great.
Well, yeah.
We're going to get it right.
We're terrible, like idiots. Yeah.
So Killzone is going to get announced.
Oh, really?
Killzone's going to get announced. Resistance is going to get announced.
Oh, really? Wait, you think Resistance over Ratchet?
I don't know why people like Ratchet. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. I mean, I feel like yes, every new console needs a platformer to be one of the games that's in that space, and Ratchet is the de facto one on the Sony platform. But I'm just like, come on, y'all, like we don't need another Ratchet game.
I'm in it for Captain Quark. I think that guy's hilarious.
Captain Quark is fantastic, but I still don't think we need a new Ratchet game. Like, don't do that anymore. I'd be okay with it. And we'll probably see Gran Turismo be in that sizzle reel at some point for sure.
Final Fantasy Remake Part 2?
I mean, go ahead, have fun. I'm not
Yeah, I mean that's
they're working on it. Right? Surely
they got to.
Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing, though, is like for a game like that with the visual style that it has, I don't think you push that out as here's your next console, here's what's coming out. Because like from a technical standpoint, there's going to be a lot of cool things you'll be able to do. But that game already looks super pretty in an art style that benefits the way that it's kind of made.
Yeah.
So I don't think you put that out as a graphical showcase. You put it out there in words and say like, it's coming. But everybody kind of knows it's coming anyway. You know what I mean?
I think we're going to get a tease to the next numbered one. I think we're going to get a tease for 16 or maybe, a little cinematic or something. And in true Square Enix fashion, yes, we will not see it for 6 to 7 years. At the end of the PS5's launch life cycle, then we'll finally see it.
I forgot about the lead up to Final Fantasy 13. It was a lot,
13, right? 15 was in hell forever. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that definitely happened with the first Final Fantasy VII Remake and Last Guardian, right? They showed these games and had like a great, and around the same time too, right? Like they're getting ready to launch new consoles, and they announced these games and just they didn't come out until almost to the end of the current gen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like this seems like a no-brainer, but Spider-Man 2, right? I feel like that's got to be. Now, watch, they're going to make an idiot out of me. I'm not.
No, I think it'll show. I think that's Horizon and Spider-Man are safe bets, I think.
Yeah. I'm looking for wild stuff, like with some stuff that we haven't seen in a very long time that might pop. I want to see a new Warhawk come out.
Oh, I want digging deep.
Because think about that, like think about technology wise, because that's the way I kind of look at all this stuff with the launches. Like, what were things that you were hampered by or like hindered by with technology that you can now do in a better way that people cared about? Like SOCOM, absolutely. Makes a really smart choice there with how much if you can actually do now. Like, there's a lot of stuff in that back catalog that we didn't hit in the PS4 era that we could definitely hit now.
Oh, it's not sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it's not an exclusive, but it would definitely win some fervor. Is a new GTA teaser trailer of some sort? If they rolled out with that, like it would be PlayStation all the way, regardless of load times or whatever, or frame rate and resolution.
Yeah. Oh, I got another one. It's not an old franchise, or it's still been around, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a new Monster Hunter announcement because. World did so good. I think it's the best selling Monster Hunter game. I mean, it set all kinds of record. I know they're working on another one, so it wouldn't surprise me. Not to be out anytime soon, but to say, yeah, we're working on it.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that definitely makes sense.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I'm trying to think of like old PS1 games that they could bring back on them. Just like Jumping Flash. I don't know what there is there.
Yeah, that's true.
Fear Effect or something, or what's the? I don't know. There's some other games there. I guess like if there's still like a lot of question about Beyond Good and Evil, right?
Tokyo Jungle 2.
Oh, Tokyo Jungle. That's really good.
Bring back the Pomeranians.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a few more. Brendan asks, what's your favorite video game weapon? Brian, what's your second favorite video game weapon beside these nuts? Thank you for that. I don't know. I gotta think about what are
generally shotguns for me. I mean, obviously the Gears shotgun is pretty incredible. Doom shotguns are usually pretty incredible. I'm trying to think.
Everything from Dead Space 1 and 2.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that is a game that could come back, but probably never will.
Oh, I'm so sad that thing is never going to come back.
Yeah.
I love any kind of dual wielded weapons that are just sort of fast. But whether it's like the dual slicers and Monster Hunter or, I love like the monk characters in like Final Fantasy that have like, fist weapons, and you get a couple of I got a pair of destroyers one time in Final Fantasy 11. They were like these sort of cesti that you wear over your hands, but they were just super fast and you just wear people out. Those are so much fun.
Super good.
Yeah. Let's see. We're almost up on time. Let's do one more from our favorite number one, the no fan Dylan, aka Scotch German. Microsoft's Project xCloud preview on iOS is extremely limited in testers and games due to, quote, App Store restrictions. Do you think Apple is suppressing it on purpose for fear that it will take business away from Apple Arcade? Do you think these theoretical fears are justified? That's right. I don't know if this is still the case, but I think you could only play like the Halo Master Chief collection on xCloud through Apple. I don't know if that's still the case, but it's definitely more limited. It wouldn't surprise me if Apple's kind of putting the screws to them a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like from a marketing standpoint, I could understand, and from like a business dude side or businesswoman side, I could understand that train of thinking. But like, from a player's perspective, those things are so completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have my Apple Arcade subscription, and I'll jump in there every once in a while. But that's a completely type of different game that I'm playing in there than like picking up my Halo campaign or something. Right. It's interesting. That's a good question. I think it's probably is partly deliberate, but I bet you there's also some really, really weird stuff about in-game purchases, because obviously Steam had problems too with like trying to get app stuff going on in the App Store for Apple. And I don't know if that was because of the competitive nature. It's probably not a technical issue, right? Like everybody who works at those companies are very smart.
Yeah.
It's probably a legal issue or in terms of like policy, right?
Because basically, I mean, even so, it's like still a beta, right? So it's like kind of
Yeah.
beta software in a ecosystem that is for, you know, games that are fully done.
Yep.
So I feel like that may be an actual problem in that space that they didn't really iron out. But I don't think it's a thing where Apple is just like trying to crap on Microsoft, because all that does is bring more people to the iOS platform. So
Right.
it doesn't make sense
Yeah.
for them to try to, you know, push them out in some real way. So
I think
That's a good
the take.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, although, I mean, Apple can get a little protective. I mean, I don't think that fear is totally unjustified, you know,
Sure.
to think that they're just, you know, out of left field. But yes, I think it's probably.
I think if it was successful, then they would probably do something to curb it. I'm just trying to think of other examples, like
Yes.
with comic books, they got all weird with Amazon too, right? Like
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is a good question, or a
Good
good
point.
point, rather. Good point. All right. Well, I think that is it. That's all the questions we've got. Kahlief, thanks so much for joining us. Anything you want to say on the way out? Anything you want to plug? Anything on your mind? The floor is yours.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you all for having me again. It was super exciting to hear that you wanted to have me on the show, and now we've had a chance to rock. So you are now a part of the Chicago fam. So that is real. I have to give massive loves out to the Inside Gaming community, who have been really, really, really kind already before I even got on the show. So you all rock. And you can check out our stuff on twitch.tv/spawnonme every Sunday. Oh my God. Every Thursday evening around 7 p.m. PST is when we do our live recordings of our show. We're trying to grow our YouTube channel, so youtube.com/spawnonme as well. We suspended our Patreon because of COVID. So there's links out there for PayPal and merch if you want to support us financially. We're on all podcast platforms. We're trying to do good work and spotlighting people of color in the gaming industry, and we've been doing that for a long time. So if you are excited about that being a part of your gaming conversation, then you should definitely check out our show and come be a part of Chicago as well.
Yeah, it's been great having you on. I appreciate you taking the time. Well, that's going to do it for this week for us here at Send News. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Now, gaming companies have been getting into the act and voicing support for various progressive causes, particularly Black Lives Matter, in a way that we haven't, at least I don't remember ever having seen this before. What have you guys noticed?
My